Hey, St. Peter, and welcome back to Becoming Hungry, our parish-wide Lenten series on fasting. Here we are in week 2 of this series, and I'm glad you're still with us. And I'm even more glad that Jenny Devasto is here with us today. Jenny, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, Jenny coordinates our Catechesis of the Good Shepherd. She co-leads it with Sarah Ardacani. So thank you for all your work with that as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Jenny, we throughout this series, as you know, we are basically going to ask the question, why do we fast, over and over and over again? Each week we're going to come up with a different answer. So last week, Father O'Toole talked about fasting as sort of a way to prepare ourselves for Easter and beyond. This week we're going to talk about fasting as a sacrifice. And I guess I want to start by just admitting that I don't love that word. In fact, in earlier drafts of this series, I totally avoided the word. I used the word give or, just more positive, happy, cheery words. Sacrifice freaks me out a little bit. So help me out. What does this word mean? How can we sort of reclaim it to be something positive?
So I find great comfort in the term sacrifice, oddly enough. And I think it's taken me years of prayer and some maturity to come to that. But it really also is underlined in my motherhood. And my experience as a mother is that we face daily sacrifices and daily suffering. It's not something that you can get out of. And that has brought me closer to God because I have found peace in his love and his compassion for me as a mother that I don't think I can find elsewhere.
Yeah. So I am not a mom. Can you just tell me more about that? Like, what is that like? How do you connect the day-to-day living of being a mother to this idea of sacrifice or even fasting?
Right. So I think every Christian man or woman, can connect the importance of suffering to their Christian daily life through the life of Jesus, through his life, death, and suffering. Kind of drawing back to motherhood in particular, the verses from Proverbs 31:10 through 31 really stick out to me because they are about the woman of worth. And she is a mother, she is a wife, and she's also a leader in her community. And she is all of this because God is first, not her family, not her daily tasks. It's God. And she puts all of those first, and she has the energy to be up before the sun, and she goes to bed after her children and her husband do. And when her husband needs support, she's there. And when her kids need it, she's there. But she's also feeding her soul through God's love and his energy. And so she can maintain that daily life through the struggles, through the hardships, and still pull through and still be able to be there for much more than just her family, but for her community as well.
I like what you say about putting God first, because that helps something click about the first reading from this week. It's the story of Abraham sacrificing Isaac. And that story's always bugged me because it feels like to be a good father, you need to kill your own child. But I think you just gave the missing piece to the puzzle, that if we put God first, then everything else falls into place. Now, of course, that story is kind of like an extreme example.
Right.
But I think you're helping me to see that sacrifice really is positive. It's a good thing.
It absolutely can be. And that God would sacrifice his only son for us. He gives us a direct, personal invitation to see the why in Jesus's life, his humanity and his divinity, right there in the Bible. It happened real time in history and salvation that we can connect with. So seeing sacrifice as a positive term, it's a perspective switch. And Keaton talks about attitude, but for me, the word perspective kind of resonates better. And for a mother, I'm not sure. I feel like she would have figured out how to do both, like love God and love her kids. But that's a whole nother story.
I love that take. That's a good take. Yeah. So how can sacrifice, how can fasting bring us closer to God, especially bring us closer to Jesus? How does that work out?
So, if you are feeling strung out in your day, oftentimes stopping a social event, stopping even a volunteer ministry and being with God can refill your cup. And sometimes that means putting other priorities like your children, like your husband, like your job to the side to put God first. But we know when we fill our cup with God that we can fill others. And you then have the energy and the love to share with others. So, really, finding sacrifice is a choice. And we oftentimes don't want to hear that. We may justify something as a need even more so than we should be. And, God's need is first. Our relationship with Him is covenantal and it is two-way. And we have a part in that. And I think this day and age, it's hard to make the choice to take on a sacrifice, but it is always usually the right way.
Yeah. And it sounds like that choice, when it comes first from God's love for us, it's like a participation in that love. And it's not a
Absolutely.
choice between good or bad, but it's like a response and a deepening of that yes.
Right. And we're reciprocating to Him all the love and even more that He's given us.
Yeah.
It's that covenant, that bond, that cyclical relationship cannot be cyclical unless we participate. And Keaton talks about the participation is the way that we know and understand Jesus in His humanity, but it's also how we ground ourselves to get to the place where we can understand and know and love His divinity. If we don't come full circle in that, we can't give that to others, and we don't have the energy to give that to others.
Okay, well, I think you're beginning to convince me that maybe sacrifice is good. Maybe we won't throw out this entire week. We'll keep this word in there. So thank you for that, and thanks for being with me today.
Thanks for having me.
And thank all of you for joining us this week. We have a lot of exciting content. We have the reading from Thomas Keating. We have our Saint of the Week, one of my favorite saints, St. Maximilian Kolbe, who really lived this life of sacrifice as well. And we have plenty of discussion questions that you could chew on with your prayer group, with your family, or you could join us on Wednesday mornings or Monday evenings. So let's go out, let's sacrifice, let's respond to this God who loves all of us so much, and let's continue our Lenten journey together. Amen, St. Peter?